بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد إخواني في الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. The topic of the lecture is how to maximize your Ramadan. How to maximize one's Ramadan. And before we start talking about Ramadan, let alone fasting, let alone maximizing one's Ramadan and one's fasting, it is my duty and my job, and is also my strong desire to remind each and every one of you of one of the guiding principles of the way of Ahl al-Hadith and Ashab al-Hadith. Those people whom we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us from those who are the Ansar al-Sunnah, the helpers and the supporters of the Sunnah, and those who haqqan bear the title Ashab al-Hadith, the people of Hadith, and their Aqidah, and their Ibadah, and their Adab, and their Suluk, and their Siyasa, and any other aspect or practice of the religion. So, one of the most important of those guiding principles is a statement that was made by some of the early Muslims. Some versions say Sufyan al-Thawri, another say Sufyan ibn Uyayna, and perhaps there are others who are quoted to have made this statement. It says, مَا عُبِدَ اللَّهُ بِمِثْلِ الْفِقْهِ مَا عُبِدَ اللَّهُ بِمِثْلِ الْفِقْهِ is that there isn't an act of worship, an act of ibadah, which is purer, which is better, which is more fond and more pleasing than knowledge of the deen, fiqh of the deen, al-ilm al-shar'i. مَا عُبِدَ اللَّهُ بِمِثْلِ الْفِقْهِ. And as Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala is quoted to have said, he says, al-ilmu la ya'diluha shay'un idha sahat an-niyyah. If you have the proper intention, if you're seeking knowledge for the right reason, then it is immeasurable. There's nothing that can come close to it. The virtue of having knowledge of the deen, practicing that knowledge, implementing that knowledge, calling others to that knowledge, being patient upon the harms and doing the first 3 levels, and not just doing it for 1 day or for 2 days or for 10 days, but doing it constantly over and over, day in, day out, with the people, the times, the seasons, and the atmosphere changing around you, but you remain consistent upon those 3 levels, and of course that 4th and final level of fighting, and that is fighting yourself to learn, fighting yourself to implement, fighting yourself to call others, and fighting yourself not to quit, not to give up, and not to complain about the things that take place when you do those 3 things. So the whole concept of the way of Ahl al-Hadith, the guiding principle, the constitution of their madhab, is ilm al-shar'i, is knowledge of the deen. Knowledge of the deen. And when it comes to the month of Ramadan, perhaps you may read some athar which could be vague. You may read some athar, statements of some of the ai some of the imams, which may even be apparently misleading. And that is that when the month of Ramadan comes, there should be no knowledge, and there should be no ilm. Put down the books, stop the classes, only worship Allah, read the Quran, make tarawih, make i'tikaf, give sadaqah, and that's it. There are many athar that you can read like this. When Ramadan came, we would leave off hadith. When Ramadan came, we would stop studying. When Ramadan came, Imam Fulan would stop his halaqah, so on and so forth. So what is our position with regards to this? Here is an athar, and there is an athar. Here is a proof of the way of Ashab al-Hadith, and here is a proof of their way, seemingly. So many people, they think and they feel that when it comes to Ramadan, that Ramadan is separated and isolated and alienated from ilm. And I feel that that's wrong. Based off of the athar that we quoted, مَا عُبِدَ اللَّهُ بِمِثْلِ الْفِقْهِ. The greatest act of ibadah is fiqh. And as it states in some narrations which are not authentic, some of those narrations are marfu'ah, غير صحيحة, إِنَّ الْعَالِمَ الْوَاحِدْ أَشَدُّ عَلَى الشَّيْطَانِ مِنْ أَلْفِ عَابِدٍ. He says one learned man is more of a nightmare to shaitan than 1,000 monks. 1,000 worshippers don't cause the shaitan as much grief as one alim, one person who has ilm and fiqh. Now those aren't the words of the Prophet ﷺ. Even though there are hadiths that state that, but they're not authentic. They're not authentic. But there lies no doubt about the meaning of that, the validity of that meaning, as the Messenger of Allah ﷺ has informed us about a man who killed 99 men. And many people, they quote the hadith incorrectly, mistakenly. They say the hadith of the man who killed 99 men. But in actuality, it's the hadith about the man who killed 100 men. That would be the proper title of the hadith. The man who killed 100 men. Because him killing 99 men was the words of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ in the beginning of the narration. From among those who came before you was a man who killed 99 men. And then he went to ask about Tawbah. He wanted to make repentance. He felt bad. He had remorse. He had regret about his crimes, his horrendous crimes, his heinous acts of atrocity, killing all those people. And he went to ask, and he wanted to seek a fatwa. And he ran into an abid, a rahib, a monk, quote unquote. Someone who's pious and righteous, someone who has a close relationship with Allah, but they're not the sharpest tool in the box, the sharpest tool in the shed. They're not that smart, they're not that intellectual, they don't have that much ilm. Most of the time it's given to ibadah, quote unquote, and not to actual ilm. So he asked the man, how can I make tawbah? How can I rectify my situation? How can I fix my life? And he says, you killed 99 souls? La tawbah talak. What a stupid question. You have the audacity to ask me, how can you repent and you kill almost 100 people? Go back and give life to the souls of the people whom you cut with your sword or your dagger. La tawbah talak. There is no tawbah. So obviously this killer, this natural born killer, quote unquote, in Sahih Ta'bir, kullu mawlud yulad ala al-fitra. But this one who was a killer, born to killing, he went back to his instinct. And that was to withdraw his sword, or withdraw his dagger, or whatever his weapon of death and murder was. And he killed that man. The man lost his life because he was ignorant, but he made ibadah, quote unquote. And then he was pointed in the direction فَدُلَّ عَلَى عَالِمٍ. He was given the Tawfiq by Allah to be introduced to a learned man, a scholar. And he asked him, and he told him that he killed 100 people. How can I make tawbah? The alim, with his fiqh and his ilm, he didn't ask him, why did you kill 100 people? How did you kill 100 people? What made you kill 100 people? That's not important right now. That's insignificant. What's important is how to fix the current state. What are you going to do right now? The fact that a killer who killed 100 people has come to me, and he's asking me a question has to mean something. If he wasn't sincere and remorseful, he wouldn't have come to me. If he wasn't regretful and remorseful, why would he even be here? So let's not deal with the past right now. Let's deal with the present and the near future. And he says, وَمَنْ يَحُولُ بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ التَّوْبَةِ. Who can stop you from tawbah? Who can come between you and Allah? What is that? Murder, shirk, kufr, drinking alcohol? What can stop you from repenting to Allah? And he says, but the place that you're in is a bad place. And he gave him instructions to leave that place and to go to the righteous village, which the inhabitants are righteous, etc. You all know that well-known story and that authentic hadith. Ash-shahid min al-hadith. The highlighting point from the hadith is that killing is something which is beloved to shaitan, without a question. And it's hated to Ar-Rahman. It's one of the early questions of the malaika. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. And when your Lord said to the angels, إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. I will place a successor in the land. قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءِ. Will you place someone, O Allah, who will make great trouble, great corruption, yufsid, وَيَسْفِكُ, and he will spill blood. And obviously spilling blood is a part of fasad. And fasad is included in spilling blood. We have the concept of atf, al-khas, al-am, atf al-am, and al-khas. Everyone understand this? The balagha of the Quran. Making ifsad, a part of that is killing. And killing is a part of making ifsad. But because killing is so bad, murder is so bad, it was given a specific place of mention. خص بالذكر مع انه يدخل ايش في الإفساد. So the angels, they innately ask this question: will you place upon earth killers? Will you place upon earth a killer? وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. And we are peaceful. We worship you. We mention your praise, greatness, and your perfection. We don't kill people and murder people and spill blood. This is what the angels asked. So the concept is that killing is beloved to the shaitan. Murdering someone, taking someone's life unjustly is something that the shaitan is fond of. And saving people and being just and righteous is something which is beloved to Allah. So the shaitan wanted the man to keep killing and keep murdering. And Allah Azza wa Jalla didn't want that. يعني من حيث الشرع. أما من حيث الإرادة الكونية, it's a different story. So the shaitan wanted him to keep doing that. What was the cause of him to stop murdering the people except for ilm shar'i? That was it. That's the only thing that saved another person's life from being taken unjustly, was knowledge. So the concept of one scholar is harder upon shaitan than 1,000 worshippers. No doubt, that's valid. That's a valid meaning. And that's also proving the validity of the statement, مَا عُبِدَ اللَّهُ بِمِثْلِ الْفِقْهِ. Nothing can be made as worship to Allah greater than fiqh. So this is the guiding principle of the way of Ahlul Hadith and Ashab al-Hadith, جَعَلَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى وَإِيَّاكُمْ مِنْهُمْ. So therefore, that does not mean that when we talk about Ramadan and maximizing your Ramadan and spirituality and fasting, is that نَحْنُ نَكُنْ فِي مَعْزَلٍ عَنِ الْعِلْمِ, that we're away from knowledge for 30 days straight. And this is also one of the proofs of those ulama who hold the view that a mincing woman is allowed to recite the Quran during her menstruation. And a mincing woman is allowed to touch the Mus'haf Sharif, the Quran, when she's menstruating. From their proofs and evidences and their arguments that they make is that it means that we're stripping a woman from spirituality, connection to Allah, reading the words of Allah for 7 to 8 days every single month. How many days does that add up in 3 months, 6 months, a year? And what is the similitude of the believer who mentions Allah and the one who does not mention Allah, except for the living and the dead? Except for what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah says, he says, as-samaka is like a fish taken out of the water, placed into the frying pan. How can you sit down and feel comfortable and at ease and Allah's name is not mentioned at all? You have a whole entire conversation and Allah's name isn't mentioned once. Nothing of Allah's dhikr is mentioned once. How is that possible for a believer? Let alone 7 days to go by and she has nothing from the Quran. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ tells us that the shaitan runs and flees from the house in which Surah Al-Baqarah is recited. So for 7 days, 8 days, she cannot recite the Quran at all. What will happen? What shaitan will come and enter her home? And the list goes on. Al-Muhim, I'm not here to argue on this mas'ala of fiqhiyah. We're not here to discuss the issue of fiqh, but I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to make a point here with regards to being far from knowledge, being away from knowledge, ibadah, the connection between the two. And 30 days going by, and I read this athar of Imam Malik, of this person, and which when the month of Ramadan came, tarakna al-ilm, we abandoned knowledge. That's not the correct understanding of those athar. That's not the correct understanding of those athar. Number 2, if that was what they meant and what they intended, these were people who studied day and night for the other 11 months. Can we say the same? Can we say the same? Are we that hungry? Is our obtainment of ilm so severe that we take an entire month off like they supposedly did? Everyone understand the point I'm trying to get to? Like they supposedly did, in which they left off knowledge for the entire month of Ramadan. Which we've said that is not laysa al-maqsood al-sahih. It's not the proper understanding of the athar. And if it was, there were people who sought knowledge vigorously for 11 months. So for argument's sake, they left off knowledge in totality for 1 month. Can we what? Say the same. Do we seek knowledge that much, in which we can say we can avoid it for an entire month? Last but not least, what ibadah is there without knowledge? What ibadah is there without knowledge? What fasting is there without knowledge? What tarawih is there without knowledge? What feeding and fidya is there without knowledge? What i'tikaf is there without knowledge? So that's not what's meant by that statement. So when we talk about maximizing our Ramadan, that under any circumstance means that we're not going to talk about knowledge. And that was the main theme of our first trip and tour to the UK. And we're also going to include that in this theme as well. Even though the lectures are about Ramadan and about fasting, but we're also going to pump and propagate and call to what? Knowledge. And that's because that is one of the most important guiding principles of the way of the disciple. One of the most important guiding principles of the way of the disciple is al-ilm shari and tafaqquh fi din and al-ilm al-nafi'. And that is the lifeblood of the heart of this call. That's the fuel in the engine of this what? Of this car. That's the alternator. That's the thing which allows the engine to what? Cut on and to run. It's not the battery, he said. It's not the what? It's not the battery. Your ignorance makes you think that it's the battery which doesn't allow the car to start up after it's charged. But in actuality, it's the what? It's the alternator. So that's the ruh, the mukh, the marrow of the bone is knowledge. And there's no spirituality without technicality. There's no spirituality in Islam without technicality. And there's no benefit in any technicality if it isn't based off of spirituality. And if it doesn't have the goal of obtaining spirituality. Listen carefully to these words. Spirituality, ta'abbud, ibadah, fasting, i'tikaf, reciting the Quran, etc. It has to be based off of what? Technicality, meaning knowledge, science. This is the proper number of tarawih, rakat. This is what you say when you eat, when you break your fast. This is the ruling of this. This is the hadith regarding that. This is the prohibition of doing this when you make i'tikaf. The technical things. But what good is for us to have all of this knowledge and to recite Bukhari, Shaykh Hassan ibn Taymiyyah, Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, Fulayr, Alan, and this and that, if we don't practice any what? Spirituality, in which there's no zuhd, and there's no softness of the heart, there's no connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we just have facts and pieces of information. So these things, they go hand in hand. Everyone understand this? These things that go hand in hand, and they are not to be separated. In the month of Ramadan, before the month of Ramadan, nor after the month of Ramadan. Seek knowledge to have a better spirit and soul. You have a better spirit and soul because of the knowledge. And that's the whole concept of studying fiqh. Why is there ikhtilaf? What's the rajih? What's marjuh? What's the strongest view? Not just to know it, but to implement it and to practice it. And I cannot explain in words how important these two principles are. Spirituality and technicality, they go hand in hand. So with that being said, maximizing the month of Ramadan is not going to be based off of anything other than the more knowledge that you have and the greater amount of fiqh that you possess. And that is the need, the necessity, and the virtue of maximizing your Ramadan. You have to have knowledge why Ramadan is so special. Why fasting is so unique in particular. And then you have to have knowledge of how to do it. How to maximize it. How to enhance it. How to put your spirituality during this month on what, Noor? Steroids. How to enhance and how to get more faster. You have to know how. And also you have to know what is specific and special to this month and that which is to be done throughout the year. And this is one of the most pivotal and critical mistakes that the people make. So with that being said, the topic of maximizing your Ramadan is not a good topic for every single Muslim. It's not suitable for all of us. Only for some of us. So maximizing your Ramadan is only a topic for people that are already on a heightened level of ibadah. Now it's time to do what? Do even more. It's time to do even more now. But it doesn't mean that the people such as myself and others who are lacking and slacked and behind, it doesn't mean that they can't benefit from the topic. And that's because if you see someone who's on a high level, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, that high level of intensity and that energy, it will become infectious. It's an infection. Where you feel the fever of Ramadan. So therefore, I'm not doing that well. So at least I can start doing better. I can be on a basic level. I can go from bad to good. And inshallah ta'ala, maybe next Ramadan, or 2 Ramadans later, or 3, or however long it takes me, I can go to being great. I can save up my money, and I can buy that ruby, or that pearl, or that emerald ring, in which the master craftsman took this amount of years or months to make, to think about it, and to perfect it. So maximizing the month of Ramadan is a topic initially geared towards someone who's righteous and pious. Someone who makes all 5 salah on time. Someone who is paying their zakah. Someone who fasts on Monday and Thursday. Someone who fasts 3 days out of every month at least. Someone who's visiting the sick. Going and being kind to the orphan. Rubbing the heads of the poor children who have no fathers and mothers. Someone who gives money to widowed women. Someone who follows the funeral procession. Someone who goes to the hospital and visits the sick, whether he knows them or whether he knows them not. When's the last time you've been to the hospital and you visited someone that you didn't know? If I asked you guys right now. Have you even been to the hospital before with someone that you didn't know? Think about that question now. Every single time I go to the hospital, it's only because of a family member or a friend. That's it. When's the last time I just went to the hospital to look at the sick people? Muslim, non-Muslim, whatever. Bring them some food, bring them some flowers, or whatever the case may be. When's the last time I did that? Or I only go to the hospital because a person is a family member to me and a friend to me. And I'm not just going to the hospital to get the reminder of death, of sickness, to give them good spirits, to lift them up. I'm only going to the hospital so they won't be upset when they come home from the hospital. Why didn't you visit me? We have to ask ourselves these questions. When's the last time I visited the graveyard? Not for a janazah, but just to go to the graveyard to reflect upon death and to look at those hundreds and thousands of tombstones, those crucifixes, those small headstones, whatever they are, whatever religion you have, and think about it. One day that's going to be me. Now when the month of Ramadan comes, I take my good, great level and I take it to the level of excellence. I'm praying even more. I lower my gaze even more. I'm avoiding void and idle talk even more. I'm already generous. People know the inside of my house. The people in the community, they know what the inside of my house looks like. Now in the month of Ramadan, they know every corner of my house. Why do that? To maximize. Everyone understand this? So there's no doubt that we have 2 different concepts here, which are connected and intertwined, but they aren't necessarily the same. The first concept is the month of Ramadan. And the second concept is fasting. They are connected, but they are not the same. They're not the same. So the month of Ramadan itself is a virtuous month. Even if you don't fast. Even if you're not fasting because of traveling, because you're sick, because you're a warrior in the cause of Allah, because you're breastfeeding, because you're pregnant, or because you are doing anything which necessitates that your fast be broken. But the month itself is precious and sacred and virtuous. Being born in Ramadan, dying in Ramadan, getting married in Ramadan, most Muslims, they pay their zakat when? In Ramadan. Why? Do they pay their zakat when they're fasting? They pay the zakat because the time of Ramadan is what? Is virtuous. Nothing to do with fasting, but the month itself is fadl. Everyone understand this or not? Everyone with me? For those who are fasting and those who are what? Fasting not. Everybody clear on this? And this is why the ulama of Islam, they differ on what is a better time. The last 10 of Ramadan or the first 10 of Dhul Hijjah. Which one is greater? Which has a heavier reward? Which one is more virtuous? Last 10 of Ramadan or first 10 of Dhul Hijjah? From one aspect we say the last 10 of Ramadan. And from another aspect we say the first 10 of Dhul Hijjah. The nights of the last 10 of Ramadan in which you aren't what? Huh? You're not fasting during those 10 nights, are you? Unless you're making wisal. Which many of the ulama say is impermissible. And those who don't even know what the ulama say, but most people aren't fasting. They're breaking their fast when they're making anti-calf. And the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, in which Many ulama, some ulama say it's recommended to fast. Some ulama, they hold their view that it's recommended to fast all 10 days consecutively. So the point that I'm trying to make is that Ramadan in itself is a virtue. Shahru Ramadan, Allah says the month of Ramadan in which the Quran has been sent down. Hudan lin-nas, guidance for men. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. And it's a criterion. It's the means of discerning truth from falsehood. It's the yardstick, the measure. And it's also a means of what? Guidance, bayinat, clear proofs. That's Ramadan. And then we have the concept of fasting. When the Messenger of Allah was asked for advice, what advice do you give me? Abu Umama radiallahu anhu, he asked the Prophet this, and he says, عَلَيْكَ بِالصَّوْمِ فَإِنَّهُ لَا مِثْلَ لَهُ. He says fast, because there's nothing like fasting. Inside of Ramadan, outside of Ramadan. The fasting that's done in the month of Ramadan is bigger and better and greater. But fasting in itself is virtuous. مَنْ صَامَ يَوْمًا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بَاعَدَ اللَّهُ وَجْهُهُ عَنِ النَّارِ سَبْعِينَ خَرِيفًا. Whoever fasts one day in the cause of Allah, Allah will send him 70 years distance from the hellfire. 70 years distance from the hellfire. So we have two different concepts now. Everyone understand this? You with me, Adam? We have fasting and we have what? Ramadan. And they are not the what? The same. And many people, they make a mistake. They make this mistake. Because a woman's pregnant, she doesn't fast. She's breastfeeding, she's not fasting. My job necessitates that I travel the whole entire month, back and forth. It's permissible for me to break my fast. And it doesn't mean that I don't let my guard down and I can't maximize anything and I can't achieve anything. Everyone clear on this or not? It's critical to understand this difference. The next very important point is that there are different levels of maximizing. Different categories of maximizing. Everyone understand this? It isn't one way of maximizing it. It isn't just one road. Also, we have different time periods or time zones, which all pertain to maximizing the Ramadan. First and foremost is before Ramadan, Sha'ban, like we spoke on last night. And then we have within the actual month of Ramadan, whether you're fasting or fasting not, daytime, morning time, suhoor, iftar, etc. Rather, within that second level of time, there are also periods of time. The beginning of Ramadan, the first week, is not like the second week. Second week is not like the third week. Third week is not like the fourth week. The fourth week is not like the last couple of days before the Eid, etc. To maximize it. And of course, then we have Shawwal, the month that comes after Ramadan. Fasting Shawwal, making the missed days before you do the 6th, etc. Getting ready for Hajj, etc. That's all a part of maximizing. And then we have, first and foremost, is the spiritual maximizing of Ramadan. How do I spiritually maximize myself? And then we have the mental maximizing of Ramadan, getting my mind together in this month, before, during, and after. And then we have the physical maximizing of Ramadan. I fasted, I prayed, I'm stronger physically. I fought myself. I'm no longer lazy. I can stand in the prayer. I can go hours without eating. So Allah knows best what situation I may find myself in. Me eating or not eating is no problem. The next man is hungry, he's complaining, he's disgruntled, he's grumpy, he's upset. Me, sabr muhtasib. I'm patient and I'm at peace with myself. Because I know what it's like not to have food for 10 hours straight. Let alone our cars on the side of the road, or I'm being held up in the airport, or so on and so on and so forth. Last but not least, we have the financial or economic maximizing or preparation of the month of Ramadan. What did I do with my money during this month? And my cheap, miserly nature, Abu Tightwad, Tayyib, as the wise man once said, stop being so cheap, Yahi. Tayyib, did I fight my cheapness during this month? Did I overcome my bukhal and my shuh or not? So, once more, first and foremost, we have the different levels of preparation. And as we mentioned last night, we have the pre-game preparation, and we also have the post-game breakdown and the analysis, what we did, how we played, how we performed. The first thing that the coach says when he's interviewed after the game, he says, I have to review the tape and see what my players did. Even though he knows what his players did. He knows that they lost. He knows that they missed some shots. They dropped some balls. They threw some interceptions. He knows this. There were turnovers. There were errors made. But he says, I have to look at the tape and, we'll figure out what we did wrong and we'll go back to the next season or the next game. He knows the durura of tahleel, of analyzing what has already taken place. And that's after he's already prepared, let alone actually executed during the game. We said this what? Last night. So before Ramadan, during Ramadan, and what? After the month of Ramadan. And then we have different aspects of maximizing. First and foremost is that of the spirit or the soul. And then we have that of the mind. And then we have that of the body. And then we have that of the pocket. How to get the most out of Ramadan with regards to your money. With regards to your money. So to keep things brief, first and foremost, when we talk about the spirit or the soul, the nafs, maximizing it, then oftentimes people, they make another mistake. And that is separating the soul from the body and the mind. They separate it. They separate it. Or, let's talk about the worldly things. One of the things that we always talk about, hadithdisciple, is martial arts. And many people, they become over-romanticized, and they become extremely dreamy about martial arts. And they're talking about the mind, and the spirit, and the soul, and philosophy, and peace, and self-defense, and so on and so on and so forth. It sounds good, it looks good. But oftentimes it's disrespect to the actual art. And that's because what good is the soul without the physical body? What good is it? What can you do with your soul if your body is extremely wounded and injured? What can you do if your body is totally removed? Let alone the fact that just as it's a benefit for the soul, it's also a benefit for the body. And who said that it was meant to be separated? Who said that? Who said that this is the spiritual training, the physical training, and the chemical training? Why is it not all one? Everyone understand this? They all aid and support each other. If you have a weak mind but a strong body, you're going to find yourself in a world of trouble. If you have a strong mind and a weak body, you're also going to find yourself what? In a world of trouble. Because you know what's right, you know what to do, but there are people that will come and physically oppress you and force their will on you and impose their will upon you. And you can't do anything you want, no matter how strong your mind is. And if you have a strong body and you have a strong mind, but you have a weak soul or a poor soul, you will also find yourself in the greatest world of trouble. And that is the example of non-Muslims who are thorough. Non-Muslims who are good people. Non-Muslims who contribute a lot to people and to the world, and they do things. And they're not lazy, they're driven, they're motivated. They do good, there's no doubt about that. We're in debt to them with regards to the worldly things. But their soul is totally void of good. They don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. Some of the greatest scientists, greatest engineers, men who discovered this and that, are oftentimes the most horrid atheists. The most horrid atheists, the worst of them. Ashad al-malahida. You find this. So all of these things go hand in hand. Are you understand this? And the same applies to the last element, which is the element of money. What can you do in Ramadan if you don't have money? How many people can you feed if you have no money? How much work can you take off if you have no money? You're behind in your bills. What umrah can you go make and perform if you have no money? Will they give you a free ticket? No. Free visa? Free hotel? Of course not. You need money. So all of these things, they go what? Hand in hand. That's first and foremost. Another very important concept or aspect with regards to maximizing your Ramadan is to take things slowly. Take things slow. Slow down. Try your best to do two habits. Two habits. Number one is to get rid of a really bad habit. And number two, try your best to create a really good habit. Make something that's habitual. And leave off something which is habitual. 2 habits, bad habits, 3 bad habits, 4 bad habits. That's my resolution this Ramadan. It may work. Allah may bless you. It may become easy, but oftentimes it just doesn't work like that as human beings. And oftentimes when you plan on getting two at one, you end up with none. Oftentimes in life. So let's make an example of this. May Allah protect us from all of this. I have a bad habit or bad practice of smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol. Inshallah ta'ala, it's my goal during this month. Of course, I'm going to stop drinking and smoking during Ramadan, inshallah. But it's my goal to shake the habit and the addiction for sure. So, in that time, it's possible for me to leave off both of them. And that is what is obligatory upon me. Al-azm is from the conditions of tawbah. You have to have firm resolution to avoid the sin in the future. Al-azm. However, I'm going to sincerely pinpoint and spearhead all of my efforts on stop drinking. Stop drinking. And bid'nai ta'ala, perhaps I'll stop smoking as well. But right now I'm only going to focus on my drinking habit. And then inshallah ta'ala, for argument's sake, next Ramadan, I'm going to pinpoint my smoking habit. I'm not saying it's permissible to smoke. I'm not saying it's okay to give yourself the permission to smoke. But I'm trying to make a point. Oftentimes, if you make too much focus on getting rid of 1,000 bad habits all at once, your body, your mind, they can't take it. And you'll leave Ramadan, and you'll continue to smoke, and you'll continue to drink. Everyone understand this? But if you focus all of your energy on leaving off one of the bad habits, it's a big possibility that you have leftover spiritual energy to stop smoking as well. And not the opposite. Not the opposite. Everyone understand this? So the point I'm trying to make is, try to make it your Ramadan resolution to drop at least one major bad habit that you have. It could be anything, cursing, whatever your bad habit is. That's a sin, or something which isn't a sin. It could be halal, sleeping a lot, eating a lot. It doesn't have to be something which is haram, it doesn't have to be a major sin. Secondly, try your best to create one good habit, whether it's a religious practice or something from the world. A good habit. When I don't read a certain amount of Quran every day, something feels wrong. I feel lonely, I feel upset. I don't feel comfortable if I don't get my hizb in, or my ruba in, or my juz in, or my wird in. I don't feel right. And that's because I've trained myself for 30 days straight to read a specific amount of Quran at a specific time every single day. Method. And when things become like habits, even if you don't intend to do it, you'll find yourself doing it. And that's why the Messenger of Allah instructed the children to pray when they're young, even though they're not pubescent. They're not of age. They're not of puberty. They don't have to pray, but teach them and train them to pray. So when they become of age, it becomes what? An adah. It becomes a habit. And you don't have the ability to shake it unless you have the evil intention to shake it. Everyone understand this? So when it comes to the spiritual preparation, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, realize that the month of Ramadan is a month of tawbah. It's a month of rain, torrential showers. Wash yourself from your sins during this month. Do not allow the month to come and allow it to go, and you did not make a sincere tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if you fear that you'll make this sin again, and you're addicted to it, or it's your weakness, it's your kryptonite, it's your Achilles heel, it's your main fitna. Even though you know it's going to be a difficulty, try your best to make a sincere tawbah during the month of Ramadan, which is obligatory, it's not an option. Also, try to read and try to study and focus on those things that deal with tazkiyatun nafs, the purification of the soul. The purification of the soul, which is obviously based off of knowledge. As far as the mental maximizing of the month of Ramadan, that one of the greatest things that you can get and do and manifest this is self-control. I'm in control of my nafs. I control my body. I run it. Not the opposite, like most other people. Self-control. Character being built and forged through the pains of hunger and thirst. Through lack of sleep. As far as the physical maximizing of the month of Ramadan, is shaking off laziness. Avoiding lethargy, which is one of the worst killers for the student of knowledge. And I'm speaking from experience, unfortunately. being lazy and being lethargic and not pushing yourself. Now, when we were in the UK, we're in the UK now, we were in California, we went to the debate. Our brother Muhammad Hijab, may Allah bless him, he debated that lost, misguided individual, Edward Tabash, and the debate was about, does God exist? So we watched the debate, we wanted to support the debate, and to support Islam and the Muslims. Regardless of was the debate the best idea to have in front of the general people or not, it was what it was. And we also went there to benefit and to learn from our brother Muhammad Hijab. I have no problem saying that. I went there to benefit and to learn. And I also went there to meet him and brother Ali Dawa. Okay? They came to the United States, they had a debate there. Allah, alhamdulillah, gave him that great victory over that foul, evil wretch, David Wood, and his misguidance and his disrespect to Islam and to the Prophet. Alhamdulillah, Allah gave brother Muhammad Hijab a great victory over him. He broke his back and his neck. Alhamdulillah, all of the Muslims were happy, as they should be. They should be happy. If you're not happy in that victory, something may be wrong with your iman. Someone who spews venom on Islam and the Muslims and the Prophet and the Quran, and he's openly, publicly embarrassed and humiliated, and you feel no joy in your heart whatsoever, and you're making an excuse, oh, he's this, he's that, he shouldn't have said this, who is he, kida? Allah alam the state of your iman. You can call it whatever you want. Allah knows best the state of your heart. If you have no pride in the victory being sent to the Muslims. So at the end of the day, we went there for several purposes for the debate, right? Several purposes. So obviously during the debate, there were things that happened, things that took place. Everyone has their opinion. What you should have said, what you should have done, blah, 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 so on and so on and so forth. So after the debate, we met, we talked, alhamdulillah. I thanked him. I said, Jazakallah khairan. You did a good job. Does that mean you did everything perfectly? Does that mean I agree with everything? No. But you did a good job in general, and you are the one who are debating. And he said to us, am I making this up? Abu Sa'id, tell me, am I making this up? Am I lying? Huh? There were other knowledgeable brothers there, other sheikhs in California. Some of them, they went right at his jugular vein immediately, in a good way, but they started criticizing him. You shouldn't have said this. This argument was what the Ash'ari say. They started chopping him up right there on the spot. We went out to dinner that night. Our brother, Allah bless him. Yeah, and I really appreciate and respect this. So Sheikh Ahmed Khatir, is that he said it to his what? To his face. Not like the cowardly men who say things behind people's face. Or they wait until you leave the country to talk about you. You're in the country for 6 days, they say what? Nothing. You return to the United States, then they what? They talk about you. They're cowards. They're afraid. They're scared. He said it to his face. And they started criticizing him. And then he turned to me. I was trying to eat my what? My salad. And I had a what? I had Alfredo. Vegetable Alfredo, He says, what points can you give me? What mistakes did I make? I said, listen, Akhi. Jazakallahu khairan. You're the debater, not me. It's easy for me to say what you should have said, but I'm not the debater. You're in the ring fighting, not us. That doesn't mean that you don't have things to fix or better strategies, or you could have been more aggressive. You could have. But you were doing the debate, right? This is what I said. So, after all of that was done and said, we returned to the United States. And then a couple of days ago, without any exaggeration, we were in another country, Toronto, right? At the Sound Heart Conference. So we're sitting in the RV they had outside of the conference. The speakers, the du'at, the mashayikh, everyone socializing, came halal, eating cake, drinking tea, so on and so forth. So, a good friend of mine, he was sitting on my right, an older brother. He asked me, a Somali sheikh, he says, how was the debate in California? Did you like it? So on and so forth. What do you think about it? Did he win? Was he wrong? So on and so forth. So I gave him a summary of what I just said to you. A summary of what I just said to you. Etc. Right? And I said to him that I told him that you were debating and not us. So it's easy for us to say what you should have done and what you should have avoided, but we're not debating, standing in front of all of those people. And then he started speaking Somali to me. And he quoted an ancient Somali proverb. Allah, some of you know what it is or not, but the translation of the proverb is, and this was profound to me, he says, wrestling is easy for an old lady. Wrestling is easy for an old lady. And he went on to explain this. What's meant by this statement, after he quoted it again in the original language, that an old lady is sitting there watching a wrestling match. And she says, slam him, and trip him, and toss him, and do that. But there are two main things that we're missing here. Number one, she's a what? She's an old lady. She's not a wrestler in her prime. Number two, she's sitting on the outside of the ring saying what the wrestler should and shouldn't do. So wrestling is easy for an old lady. Any you guys ever heard this before? Huh? Not yourself? No one has ever heard this? Like, take this factor from me then. Huh? This is authentic. Sanad Sahih. It's authentic chain of narration. I just don't know Somali to quote what he said, but I remember what he said in English. So the maqsood is, the point is what? Is when anybody can criticize from the outside. Alright? The physical body, the soul, the mind, they're all what? What did he say? Intertwined. They're all what? They're all intertwined. They're not separate. Everyone understand this? So if you leave the month of Ramadan with no other physical benefit of maximizing except for the fact that you fought off laziness and you have physical strength, along with the mental strength and the spiritual strength, so on and so forth, wallahi, that's a goal accomplished. That's the having maqsood. That's the point from this kalam tawil. Everyone understand this? Last but not least is your money and your finances. And that goes back to the preparation of the month of Ramadan. And this is what I said in the khutbah about a week ago, is that one of the most important things for preparing for the month of Ramadan is not the purification of the soul and Tawbah and Quran and this and that, but is money, finances, getting your money in order right now. Working extra days to have extra days off in Ramadan. Working overtime, having more money to host iftar, to do suhoor, to give more sadaqah, to have the zakat, and so on and so forth. Get your money together right now. You may want to make umrah in Ramadan. And what some of the ulama of Islam say is equal to Hajj with the Prophet ﷺ. Some of the ulama say that. Hold that view, Inna umratan fi Ramadan ta'dilu hajjatan ma'i. We explained that hadith, what's meant by that hadith, in one of the earlier 5 minutes of Faidas, some years back, Tayyib. Al-Muhim, the point is, brothers and sisters, is that these are some points and some pieces of advice for maximizing the month of Ramadan spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His beautiful names and perfect attributes to allow us to implement this and act upon it and spread it to others and to make our Ramadan maximum. Wallahu a'lam.
Question, sir?
Fadal. How much time do you have for the questions?
About 10 minutes.
Fadal.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. You look very familiar.
I do?
Yeah. Doesn't he, Abu Saeed? You have a brother?
No, yeah, older brother, but he lives in Vienna, Austria.
Tayyib. You know what I'm talking about, Abu Saeed?
Yeah.
It looks like him, doesn't he? Same mannerisms too. La. Huna. Think deeply. The sweet brother. Yeah, no, he does. MashaAllah. طيب, فضل يا أخي.
I don't want to paraphrase the hadith, but I wanted to ask about the authenticity of the hadith regarding in terms of the greatness of Ramadan. An individual that dies in the month of Ramadan will be hastened towards Jannah before someone that died in previous year outside of the month of Ramadan.
At the end of the day, month of Ramadan is a virtuous month, as we've established. And there's no difference of opinion regarding that. Does that mean if you die in the month of Ramadan, you will automatically go to paradise? Or you'll be put in front of someone else who died previously outside of Ramadan? It's clearly an issue of what? Consideration. Something to ponder over. Is there a rush? Or not a rush, is there a traffic jam at the doors of Jannah? Is it something which you do have to fight to get into? It's a realistic question. Is there an overcrowded space in paradise? Everyone understand this? At the end of the day, there are many authentic hadith about the month of Ramadan and its virtue, which تُغْنِيكَ عَمَّا سِوَاهَا, which are more than enough from narrations which are at best weak and at worst fabricated and or at least doubtful. There are too many authentic hadith regarding the virtues of Ramadan in the Sahihain, in the Masanid, in the Sunan, which are well known, thabita, mashhura, which is more than enough to keep you busy and to keep you driven. The hadith, which some of the ulama differ over, and some of them are clearly weak, and some of them clearly have nakala, problematic meanings which don't consistently go with the other texts. Al-Muhim, the month of Ramadan is a virtuous time, bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, for birth and for death, inshaAllah. And the Prophet ﷺ clearly says, إِذَا جَاءَ Ramadan, when the month of Ramadan comes, the doors of paradise are opened up. Now that does not mean that a person automatically goes to paradise, whether the hadith is authentic or not. And that's because there's life in the grave and there's resurrection. You understand this? Wallahu a'lam. Fadal.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Alaikum
Thank
salam.
you for your talk. I just wanted to ask, a few of us here are university students and we have exams throughout the month of Ramadan and even just after. So what advice would you give to us just to make use of
A university student who has exams, prioritize. If you're going to school, the school is paid for, your parents are paying for it, you're paying for it, you have to take the test. You can't take off, you can't delay. Prioritize. Certain virtuous acts you can't perform in Ramadan because of the exam or study, you're in that situation. When you graduate, inshallah ta'ala, you finish school, go back to that. You have to prioritize. And you finishing your degree and graduating may be more important and it may be more virtuous than doing other voluntary acts in Ramadan. And that's because you finishing your degree is a means such as of pleasing your parents. Pleasing your parents. Your mother really wants you to graduate. She wants her son to be the astrophysicist or this civil engineer. I like the way that sounds, right? Tell you, who's the astrophysicist? Engineer. Tell you, what happened there? Your mother, she's pleased with that. What comes first? You make an extra rak'at or itikaf, or your mother's good pleasure? Or the concept of getting married. You may really need to get married. It's a necessity for you to be married. Wajib. The faster I finish my degree, I can get married afterwards. My parents have it lined up, etc. So you have to prioritize, huh? And this is all from Fiqh to ibadat. The proper understanding of the acts of worship. That which is obligatory, that which is recommended, that which is pressing, like an emergency room. I have someone who is missing a finger and they're bleeding profusely. And I have someone who's missing a foot and they're bleeding more profusely. Who do I take first? Of course, the person who has a missing foot. It doesn't mean that the missing finger isn't dangerous, it won't get infected, etc. But this is, I have to do this first. Try your best to maximize it, to manage your time. But priority. Huh? And Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. Allahu Akbar. Tafadhal.
Sheikh, you once mentioned that, some Sahaba, they narrated like hadith from like different wording to the Prophet, how the Prophet said it. I was going to say, how can you tell the difference between a hadith which has been narrated word for word from the Prophet and a hadith has been narrated differently? And in light of that, how can you understand the preservation of the wording of the hadith?
Question is regarding paraphrasing the hadith.
Or the Sahaba?
The Sahaba, clear,
Yeah.
crystal clear. Paraphrasing the hadith and it being narrated. And it's not specific to the Sahaba. The hadith can be narrated from the Sahaba word by word. And it can be quoted without its exact meaning later on. It's not specific to just its companions. That's why I said paraphrasing in general, Sahaba or not. Someone narrating a hadith and it isn't word for word. How do we know when a hadith has been passed down like this? What is the original meaning? If there is an original wording, not meaning. And how does this pertain to the preservation of the hadith? So on and so on and so on and so forth. Very important question, a very good question. And inshallah ta'ala, the answer is simple and easy for the one who Allah makes it simple and easy. The sunnah has been preserved and passed down in several different ways. Every act of the Prophet, or even statement of the Prophet, or teaching of the Prophet, or allowance of the Prophet, wasn't necessarily passed down in wording. There are many things that the companions did, they understood, they got from the Prophet directly, and they passed it down through their acts, through their teachings. And they didn't always quote the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So certain things that they did, which is the preservation of the sunnah. And certain things which they actually quoted, which is the preservation of the sunnah. Whether it was the direct wording or whether it was paraphrased or whatever. That's first and foremost. Number two, and that's also, all of that is included in the meaning, وَيَعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. And Allah, He says that the Prophet ﷺ, he teaches them, يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. He recites to them His ayat. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. He cleans them, purifies them, and He teaches them, i.e., يعني التطبيق العملي, the physical application of the book and of the wisdom. Alright? That's first and foremost. And everything that you learn doesn't have to be verbal. Everything that you study and take from your teachers isn't always going to be verbal. And even if it is verbal, sometimes it's passed down physically. I may show you something that I learned from my teacher with words. Or something I learned from my teacher and he never said anything to me. You understand the difference? What's important is the teaching is what? Being passed down. That's all it is. And that's the whole concept of al-isnad. That's the whole concept of al-ijazah. That's the whole concept of the silsila, of the pedigree of scholarship in Islam. Now, the other day I was on an airplane. I think I was coming back from Toronto, and I was reading. The book was one of the volumes of Ma'arifat al-Ilal wa Rijal of Imam Ahmed, and there was an athar therein, in which one of the Salaf al-Salih, he said that he heard كَانَ يُقَالُ, it used to be said that Bani Israel and the previous nations إِنَّمَا ضَلُّوا بِسَبَبِ كُتُبٍ وَجَدُوهَا, books that they found, books that they discovered, and that was the cause behind their misguidance, i.e. there was no isnad, there was no system of ijazah, there was no pedigree, there was no master apprentice, master apprentice, master apprentice, master apprentice. But it was just information that they found, and they didn't know the physical implementation and the fiqh of those scriptures. You understand what I'm trying to say to you now? They have facts without the fiqh of those facts. Muslim or non-Muslim. You have not studied the system, and the baton has been passed down to you via a teacher who was once a student, etc. So what's important is, first and foremost, initially, is the teaching being passed down. Or the teachings being what? Passed down, verbally or physically. That's number one. Number two is, there lies no doubt that there are many, many hadiths that have been passed down bil ma'na, by being paraphrased. It's not the specific word of the Prophet. Regardless, whether the hadith was longer and is now shorter, the hadith was longer or only gave a section of the story, or whether I quote the Prophet in my own words. I say to you, the most important thing in Islam is you have a proper intention. The Prophet didn't say that specifically. Did the Prophet even say, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ? That's what it says in 40 hadith of Nawawi. But does that actually say that in Sahih Bukhari? Is that worded in Sahih Muslim? Or understand this, whether it is, whether it isn't. There's no Allah's no doubt, the meaning is there. Deeds are only based off of what? Intentions. So there are many hadiths that have been passed down and memorized like that. And there's some hadiths in which the specific prophetic wording is clearly mentioned. And the other versions, it shows rawahu bil ma'na. He only paraphrased it. أو اختصره. And that can only be discovered through reading the books of hadith, reading the takhrij of the hadith, and reading books like Fath al-Bari, in which he يعتني بجمع الألفاظ والروايات والزيادات, in which he mentions the version of Abu Dawood. He mentions the version of this hadith in Bukhari that's in Musnad Ahmad. He mentions the versions, the ikhtilafat of Shu'bah and Sufyan al-Thawri. Mathalan. So, as the A'imma of hadith would say, إِذَا أَرَدْتَ أَنْ يَصِحَّ لَكَ حَدِيثُكَ فَاضْرِبْ بَعْضَهُ بِبَعْضٍ. It says when you want your hadith to be authentic, throw it against each other. Take one part of it against another. Make clash. One riwayah versus another riwayah and compare it. Sit down, investigate it, analyze it, and you'll see the mahfuz from the khata. You'll see a riwayah bil-ma'na min al-lafz al-nabawi. And that can only be obtained through the Arabic language. That can only be obtained through a great deal of knowledge and fiqh of ilm al-hadith. And many years of hard, back-breaking study. Hard, back-breaking study. Everyone understand this? The first year of the master's program, we had a professor who was a senior professor, and he gave the students a lot of work. He gave them a lot of work, okay? We would say in America he was a slave driver. He gave them a lot of work. He gave the students a lot of work. It was hard on them. So some of the students began to complain. And they're beginning to say, yeah, Sheikh, we have other research papers we have to do. We have other classes. We have to spend hours all day, every day in the library writing just your paper, let alone the other ones. Do you know what he said? He says, "Unzuru ila alladhina yashquna as-sukhur, kayfa yanamun." He says, look at the laborers and the construction workers who crack rocks and split rocks open. He says, look how they sleep. Look how they sleep. That's what he said to us. That's the specific what? Wording of the teacher, not bil ma'na. And I remember exactly as he said it. In other words, when you go in the Prophet's Masjid, after Salatul Dhuhr, or in the Masjid in the university or any Masjid, it's not a difficulty for you to find many people spread out, lying all over the Masjid, laying in the sun, sitting with flies, whatever the situation is, and they sleep like babies. They sleep like babies. They don't have insomnia. They don't have apnea. They're not tossing and turning and rolling over. They're asleep. Why? Because they work what? So hard. They're splitting and breaking what? Sukhur, rocks. Everyone understand this? They're laborers. So they work hard and they also enjoy and benefit from their sleep. So ilm al-hadith is like that. If you want to have the sweet benefit, if you want to get these different fawaid and meanings, break your back. Break your back. And understand this? Study hard. Learn the sciences of hadith. Learn Arabic and put in the necessary time and you'll discover all of these things and inshallah ta'ala what? Much more. So that is how we determine which wording is exact, which wording has been paraphrased, which wording is a mistake, which wording is authentic, etc. Clear? Alhamdulillah. Imagine researching one hadith for an entire month. 30 days. Just you doing what? Research on one hadith. Not two hadiths, not a book, not a class. Hadithun wahid. Shahr kamil, you're making a takhrij of one hadith. Without using a computer. He said, what? Shukur, sukhur. Split it up in what? Rocks. Think how good they sleep at night. And if you think about your father or your grandfather, when he used to come home from work, did he ever complain about sleeping problems? Think about it. Evident. Right or wrong? He was gone from Fajr, he came back after Isha. Eats, and there's what? Let the snoring begin. Works hard. People who don't work so hard, have this break, drink this coffee, this tea, play this game on their phone. Oftentimes, they have a nightlife after work. They're hanging out. Sidewalk Cafe in New York City, Then they go home and they toss and turn in their sleep. You wonder why? Fadl akhi. Selling food, avoid it. You shouldn't sell food in the daytime. And if you're going to sell food, then sell food to Muslims who are either fasting and buying it for iftar, or women who are pregnant and breastfeeding, or people who might be traveling. As far as selling food to kuffar, selling food to fusaq Muslims, try your best to avoid it. And Allah knows best. Fadl.
When does a new day start? يعني متى ينتهي يوم الخميس ويبدأ يوم الجمعة?
When does a new day start? We have lunar versus solar, or solar, excuse me, lunar versus solar, moon versus the sun. When you read the history of humanity, you'll find the people differ a great much over calculation. Keeping time, calculating time. Is it by the sun or is it by the moon? Everyone understand this? What are the names of the days of the week or the months, etc.? Many people, they have the common era or the Gregorian calendar or the Viking calendar versus the Hijri calendar. You look and you read about Vietnamese culture, you find they have a calendar. And the Jews have a calendar. And these people and those people, they also have a what? A calendar. The year of the pig, the year of the black rat, the year of the ox, the year of this, kada. People that have different ways and methods of calculating time. So in Islam, the method of calculation is a bit different than other calculations. And that's not based off of 24, 12-hour system, AM, PM, which is not necessarily 100% bad or wrong, 100%. Ours is a bit different. Our day begins when Salat al-Fajr comes in, as we all know. Not when Salat al-Fajr is made, but when it's time for the adhan. That's the beginning of the day. And the day ends at Salat al-Maghrib, when the Maghrib comes in. The day is now officially what? Over. From one aspect. But from another aspect, the day isn't over, because you still make Salat al-Isha. And Salat al-Isha, bil ijma', no difference of opinion, is included in the what? 5 daily prayers. Everyone understand this? There aren't 4 prayers in a day, there are 5. And Isha is from them. Isha is clearly what? After. Or even deeper than that, Fajr. Is Fajr a part of the previous day or the next day? Everyone understand this? And that is why Salat al-Dhuhr, according to many of the ulama of Islam, that's the first prayer that they mention. They mention Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha, and Al-Fajr. And the reason why they mention Dhuhr before Fajr. Everyone understand this? This is for the fa'idah in general. Al-Muhim, Salat al-Maghrib, when the sun sets, the day is now over. And it is now the eve of the next day. Wallahu a'lam. Alhamdulillah, jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.